Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook podcast, out of NRL Supercoach round 24. Proudly brought to you by Mortgage Choice SCW. I'm your host, Tim Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, the business end of season has well and truly arrived for 2024. Just 4 rounds to go until a new NRL Supercoach overall champion is crowned. Here to do his best to aid the future champion, 2019 champion, Dez Creek. Desmond, how are you?
I'm not too bad, not too bad. Stalling a bit, Supercoach-wise. Just haven't put anything together over the last 4 weeks or so. Still sitting around the same rank. I guess it's just because I've run out of trades. The age-old, I'm stalling.
The old quarrel.
Yeah, that's it.
Did your parents ever think about calling you Desmond? I know you're obviously Declan. A lot of people wouldn't know you're a Declan for starters because you're Dezzy Creek to us, but you've got some real Desmond vibes about you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a fitting name.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen. Also with us today, head-to-head specialist, draft specialist. He's an overall toiler. He's the CEO of the SC Playbook WhatsApp group, Bryden. Maxie, welcome back, mate.
Hey, Timmy. G'day, Dez. Nice to be here, man. I'm surprised you didn't throw out give me the Maxwell.
Yes.
The way you're going there with the Desmond. Maybe we'll save that for cricket season.
Are you Maxwell or Maximus?
Oh, Maxwell, of course.
Yeah, you look like a Maxwell as well.
Yeah, I don't know how to take that. So.
Adds up. I like it. Also with us, as always, Matty the Waterboy. Matty, what's doing, mate?
Same old Timmy, same old. The Supercoach is not going forward and not going backwards, but yeah, not too bad.
Mate, I'd be more than happy for my Supercoach team not to be going forward or backwards and staying still, but unfortunately it's not. Dez, you've updated us. You're sitting stalled at around 200th overall.
215th, 16th, something like that. The highest I got was, I think, 198, so only 20-odd spots off that. But, yeah, I don't know. I think I've run my race. I can't really do much more now. It's up to sit first start, captaincy. I don't know. I don't know if there's that much more ground that I can make up with my team personally. 2 trades left.
Into the mic, mate, into the mic. 2 trades left. Do you start to go a little bit... You're in a tricky situation, aren't you? Because you said you're in a good little cash comp led by the great Wilson Carlos, which you're in prime position to win at the moment. That's an overall cash comp, not a head-to-head one. So obviously focusing on that whilst trying to get the best rank you can. So with a focus on that cash comp, you probably don't look to get too tricky on your sit v starts and captains, do you?
Yeah, no, it's all just conservative play from here on now. So yeah, the last 2 trades is I'm not really going to be, looking for pods like a lot of people will be maybe this week, especially in a head-to-head. I'm mainly going to play conservative and reactionary with them. So injuries, restings, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's conservative play for the last 4 weeks for me.
Boring. Maxie, how's your side tracking, mate? You've got the world's most stacked squad. We know that your strategy this year has been to just generate as much cash as you can. What that's done is it's meant that you've gone hard on trades throughout the season, but you've set yourself up with a really deep squad now, mate. How are you looking?
Yeah, good. It's almost too deep. It's annoying. I've had a few tons and really big scores on the pie in the last couple of weeks. Sitting overall 4,188, so thereabouts. But yeah, just can't seem to sort of get over that hump and make that next big climb. I think the furthest I got up was maybe about 3,200th, which was in about round 18 or so. So I'm confident that I can make some really steady climbs overall, but for me, just really want to win those head-to-head comps. 1265 this week, it was pretty good. No one really sort of did the damn thing except for Tommy Turbo, who I brought in, and the Psycho Plath, my new favourite player, just going from strength to strength. But apart from that, team's looking solid. I'm sure I'll come over the top of a few people with sort of 22 stars in my team. So just going to take a few injuries to popular guys that I'll be able to cover that others won't. So yeah, 4 trades left.
Very nice, mate. Set up as well as you can be, essentially. So in a good position. For the Cooma Stallions, 1,155 points on the weekend. Another 1,000-point spot drop to 15K overall. Boys, it's just one nail in the coffin week after week at the moment. I sent my team to both of you because I was like, I've played the long game, set up for this one, and I just went, what am I doing so wrong? How is this bloody team not performing, Maxie? What'd you have for me?
To be honest, not much. I mean, on paper...
You said no Jacob Kiraz.
Well, I did. I mean, that's it. The 2 spots I looked at...
My 4 CT dub starters are averaging the same as Jacob Kiraz.
Yeah, but they're not Jacob Kiraz though.
Oh.
And there's also guys like AFB, and maybe it's not so much about the ceiling as some of you guys have got. It's about the floor.
Yeah.
I think that's been a bit of a secret to mine this year. Like having guys from round 2 like Lomax, got on Kiraz really early who. Yes, they've had some big games, but they also just haven't had many bad ones. So even when you've got guys like Val Holmes who might dish up a 40 or something like that, these guys are never going below 50 or 60.
Yeah.
So
With the high upside.
yeah, it's tough. But look, Cash Gen's been really easy this year. Like I feel like there's been so many mid-rangers who have turned into genuine keepers. Like guys like Josh Curran, Dom Young, Angus Crichton, who we got on pretty cheap at pretty good value, who have sort of skyrocketed. So yeah, definitely a weird season, but I guess it's a season where you're seeing so many serious players up the top. But even just beyond our teams, the race to number 1 rank this year looks so tight. If you've checked the table, there's maybe 50 points between the top 4 or something like that. It's absolutely nuts. So there's a few subscribers who are cheering home. So yeah, hope that they're paying attention hard for the rest of the season. We've got a few trades left as well.
Hopefully, mate. Well, I will absolutely be living vicariously through them sides for the run home because there's not much to crow about for the Stallions, but that's all right. Guys, the SC Playbook Unlimited League. Speaking of people will be riding home, Bryce's boys, coached by Blake, has held that spot in first overall. $1,000, of course, up for grabs for the winner of the SC Playbook Unlimited League. Quick update. It's going to be a very short update. Instagram's still down for SC Playbook NRL. Trying to get it sorted still. In the meantime, posting all of our content on the SC Playbook cricket page. So give that a follow and stay up to date and you won't be missing a thing. Subscription-wise, guys, if you'd like to get a leg up throughout the remainder of head-to-head finals, you can subscribe to SC Playbook. You know what you get by this point of the season. Importantly, though, you'll be supporting the site and podcast for all the time and effort that goes into putting it all together each and every year. So to do so, you can do it via the menu on our website, the SC Playbook end-of-season catch-up as well. It'll score you an invite to that one. Exact details will reveal a week or two out from the exact the date, but it'll be Super Saturday, September 7, the final Super Saturday of the season in round 27. Get everyone together there. I've got a few fun little things lined up for the contributors and those that come along as well. Now, boys, on today's show, Team List Tuesday analysis. Dom Young and Eliesa Katoa headline the big name returns. The first topic of the show will be finding the 2024 Tolutau Koula. He went big and busted open some head-to-head leagues and the overall race at the end of the season. Who's it going to be this year? Topic 2 for the show. In Maxi's words, how dudes go with other dudes. Don't think into that too much. It's Maxi's NRL Supercoach stat deep dive. Hot topics for the show. The fullback roulette. How to navigate, I should say. The Teddy versus Turbo versus Ponga conundrum. We'll drop our trade plans and skippers for round 24 into a few listener questions with a lot of sit v start ones at this point of the season. Now, boys, let's get into Team List Tuesday. And the first one, blockbuster to start the round, Panthers and Storm in the riff. Dylan Edwards and James Fisher-Harris named on the extended bench. Maxi, your boy, Dane Laurie. Did you end up jumping on him or not?
I did in several draft comps, but no, I did the cowardly line approach and avoided him in Classic, which, in hindsight, I'm not sure I really had the trades to do it, but gee, he is absolutely cooking. I know Spy, when he was sitting here in this seat last week, came on here on the show and said, I think I'm going to sell Dane Laurie, and I sent him the most abusive voice message on WhatsApp you can imagine, just saying you're an absolute fool, and thankfully he did listen to me. So
he held off.
He did. He kept him. He sold Jaden Campbell instead, so he had a good week. So
because he said, he was like, I don't want to do it, but he was looking at Dylan Edwards coming back this matchup this week. Maxi, one of your best.
Yeah. No, mate, he's a good player. And look, credit to there's several guys who have identified him in the WhatsApp chat as well. Subscribers who have just been looking at his scores. 3 tons in 5 games at fullback. If you got him, I think you have to hold. Not even a terrible buy if Edwards misses. Just knowing that if you've got a guy like Dylan Brown, if Laurie does go to the bench or go to the wing or something like that, you don't have to play him. Might become an 80 nightmare, but at the worst case,
you think that he's a hold if Dylan Edwards comes back this week?
I think it's marginal, and most people aren't going to have the trades as well to muck around with 5'8". So, we saw Taruva got dropped on the wing not that long ago. I guess we don't really know, and maybe he goes to the bench and becomes number 14 and becomes a bit of a nightmare. But
I think he probably gets that 14 spot for them.
Yeah, I think on potential alone, there might be other trades or depth that you could build in your squad rather than hold him. So I think I'd hold.
Yeah, very.
Sure.
Yeah, going well, boys. Strong form early to start the podcast. Eliezer Katoa returns for the Melbourne Storm on the edge. He also comes up against edges of the Penrith Panthers with the two main men in Liam Martin and Scott Sorensen out. Great news for owners, obviously, and there are a lot obviously out there. With deep squads, I think the chat around Ellie Katoa this week, Dezzy, is sit or start. We had a bit of a chat pre-show. You're pretty heavy in the camp of start the big fella.
I am, yeah. I think Katoa can get through even the best of defences. Realistically, he takes his run from 5-10 meters out from the line. It's kind of like Olakau'atu. He can get through even the best defenders as long as he gets ahead of steam up. As long as Hughes gets him the ball early and he hits that inside run. That's how he gets most of his points. So if he scores a try, he scores a try. He's going to bank you a fair few crucial points. So I don't see why you'd really sit him in a game like this where Melbourne will want to win. They will be coming out hard though. They'll try to make a statement.
Yeah, Maxie, obviously this comes down to how deep your squad is and what your options are and who to play him against. But I suppose for deep squads out there, I mean, you're certainly less convinced.
Yeah, I am. And look, I think when I look at Dezzy makes a great point, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did come out here and score a try and go well. But when you're looking at the likes of David Fafita, Angus Crichton, Bryden Nicola, Olakau'atu, even Max Plath, the way that he's playing 75 average at hooker up against the Bulldogs who are conceding the most points to hookers as well, it's a very tough sit for me. So, yeah, he will be sitting on my pine this week.
Yeah, I've got a few decisions to make, but I'm leaning towards the sit as well. And you mentioned those back rows. I think I've got minus Plath, all the ones you mentioned. He's with this matchup against Penrith in Penrith, who, this is a finals game essentially for these two teams. I like the sit as well. So it doesn't make him a bad play, but for deep squads, I fully understand it. Tolutau Koula, 18th man for the Manly Warringah Seagulls as he looks to return from injury. Sean Johnson back for the Warriors. Adam Pompey also returns. Tamari Martin and Ali Leatawa are gone for the Wars. A big one, boys. Dom Young named for the Roosters on the wing for a very juicy run home, Dezzy. You jumped on him, didn't you? And he got injured.
I didn't. I jumped on Manu and Haas 2 weeks ago, which wasn't, the other option was Fanua Blake and Dom Young, and neither of them has set the world on alight since then. So, yeah, it's a scary one for me. I'm death riding Dom for the whole run home now.
You're tempted?
I'm tempted, but I just think the points that he would gain me over another centre wing or another player in my 17 isn't going to outweigh that using that last trade on a reactionary sort of injury or a final play in the last week or two. Those have worked for me in the last few seasons, so I think I'm going to do that sort of play again.
Yep. Chad Townsend dropped out the North Queensland Cowboys. Jake Clifford comes in there. A big one, not so much Supercoach-wise, but a big one certainly rugby league-wise on the run home to NRL finals. At the Raiders, Ethan Strange moved to centre. Adam Cook in the halves. Very keen to see how Strange he goes out there, where he has obviously played a lot of football in the past. Maxi, to your Tigers. Ruben Porter dropped. Alex Seyfarth starts on the edge. Ruben Porter, he was your best player 2 weeks ago. In what's been a tough season, I think he's been a bit of a shining light. I'll admit, I didn't watch him dead closely against the Knights on the weekend, but I thought he was unreal 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, look, all I can say is it's good getting one up on Guru, isn't it, for you, mate?
Where was this 2 weeks ago when he turned up and he played him?
Yeah. Look, I got to admit, I didn't even watch more than the highlights of the Tigers on the weekend. I was happy to do something else. That's sort of where I'm at with him at the moment. But no, look, Seyfarth's also such a weird player. Like some weeks can look fantastic and other weeks can look absolutely rubbish. But no, tough one for owners, particularly guys without any trades who are hoping on him for an extra number. But you're probably not going to play him most weeks, are you?
No, absolutely not. I was just more NRL-wise. I thought the Tigers, your season's done. Just give him a go. I thought it was good. Anyway, at the South Sydney Raiders, Keon Kaloa Matangi starts on the edge this week. I suppose the question there, Dezzy, Kaloa the last 2 weeks, we sort of expected this was going to happen for a while, but his minutes finally dropped back to 55 and 54 the last 2 weeks. He's still at top dollar, but a break even of I think it's about 119. He's moved to the edge, so he may get his 80 minutes again. Prior to the edge move, I was thinking just cash him in, could get reduced minutes in the back end of the season. With the matchup that they have this week against the Tigers, do you maybe just give him one more week, see if he plays 80 and hold tight, or would you look to move on?
I would say so, yeah. That's a pretty good matchup. hard to sit anyone with that sort of matchup. So we know he can score tries on the edge. He's played there, I would say the majority of his career. So he knows how to hit a hole, and he could easily ton up against a team like that. So yeah, I would say. Hold him, start him, and probably keep him for the rest of the season. There's not that much more to say about that.
Yeah, I think one more week in the middle of that sort of 50 to 55 minutes at the value, it could have been a sell, but 80 minutes on the edge, I think, yeah, absolutely. It's giving him a reprieve, so certainly watch and play this week.
I think importantly, he's on Cody Walker's edge. You'd expect him to go back to the right.
Yeah.
He's never had Cody on the same side as him, so
Interesting.
maybe it actually is a good thing. I mean, Cam Murray scored a try there last week, so who knows?
Yeah. At the Titans, Maxie, you Brian Kelly owner?
I'm not a Brian Kelly owner, just a lifelong fan.
You've been big on him for a long time.
He is, yeah.
Well, he's
absolutely.
back.
He's back.
He's back. AJ Brimson gone. Bo Fermor, Brimson gone to the bench. Bo Fermor, 18th man in this one as he looks to return from bruised kidneys. At the Sharkies, Ronaldo Mulitalo and Bryden Trindle on the extended bench. Anyone who's looking to sell either of these two this week, hold fire. Mulitalo, he could be a serious option for the run home with the soft Sharkies draw. Boys, the 2024 Tolutau Koula. Koula infamously finished last year with 125 and 188 points to help Guru rise above the Kuma Stallions to finish the season, and it broke my heart. However, we are here now to try and find who this year's Tolutau Koula might be. Now, what happened with Koula last year? For those who don't remember, there was... Did Tommy Turbo get injured late in the season, or did Garrett got injured? I think Garrett got injured.
Tommy Turbo got injured in State of Origin.
Yeah.
And then Ruben Garrick broke his back playing against the New Zealand Warriors when CNK ran into him after a bouncing ball.
Koula went to fullback and just went bonkers. So, look, over the coming weeks, there'll be injuries and rest and things where players like Koula emerge for soft weekly matchups. But with 4 weeks to go, there's a lot of questions about, like, they don't necessarily have to be pods, but we look at roughly lower ranked players, and certainly the way I've approached this, I've looked at just teams with really soft matchups, with good attacking upside, and there's just a few names who have popped up. Maxie, we'll start with you, mate. Who have you found?
Mate, got a couple of names out here, and there's two things I've sort of thought about. One is the draw, but the other is the opportunity for them to get a new role. Of course, what unlocked Koula was that move back to fullback. He looked good.
Oh, yeah.
It's always a shock when they were naming anyone else there when Tommy was down earlier this year. But names off the back. Now, this might be a bit of a shock, but the Broncos' draw has all of a sudden become rather juicy. When you factor in after this bye, they've got their 3 games, apart from the Storm in round 27, which sucks. They've got the Eels and the Dolphins, who 2 of the worst teams in the NRL Supercoach. So Dean Mariner started scoring a lot of points since he went to left centre. Got a try in him, fast feet. And even your favourite bloke, Katoa Staggs as well. He's got a couple of cracker matchups against some teams who are terrible on their left defensively. So I'm not saying buy Katoa Staggs, but I'm not saying that he's not the best option for CTWs who are cheap going into head-to-head finals.
You are mad for even the suggestion.
Yeah, I know. And look, to be honest, I did look into his scores this afternoon, and they were worse than
this is what Katoa does. As a bloke who's been scorned by many a time, he just has one big week and he scores a couple of unbelievable tries where he knocks 8 blokes over in the process, and you go, he's just scored 50 points in one game. Yep. In one run, I should say.
Yeah,
anyway.
That's it. He should be a lot better than he is. 2 guys from the Manly Seagulls last year. No shocks here. Lehigh Hopewate. He's been fantastic. What a great young player. Not only just electric from fullback, but great tackle bust as well. He's got a great base, good work rate, and cooler as well. Suafar Logo, the forgotten man. He's 1 injury away from that fullback slot for the Melbourne Storm, and their run home after this Panthers matchup against the Dolphins, the Cowboys, and the Broncos looks amazing. So he's a big watch on the list. I really like Jesse Ramian. He's come into fantastic form, and the Cronulla Sharks are going really, really well. Dane Laurie as well, a name I think you've got to keep an eye on, because if anything does happen to Dylan Edwards again, then his relevance just goes through the roof. 2 more off the bat.
Just quickly on Dane Laurie, as you said, like we think Penrith players will probably get a rest at some point. I suspect that they'll stagger the restings as they did last year over the last 4 weeks. Probably not this week, but the last 3 weeks. If Laurie does play 10 minutes off the bench this week, or misses the 17 potentially, if Dylan Edwards were to come back, that's his rest. So you'd know he'd play the final 3 weeks as well.
100%. And he could be 5'8", he could be wing, he could be anywhere. And if he's on the field, he's worth a piece. Because
you want him. Well, I suppose that's the thing. With potential staggered restings, he could slot in at 5'8". So this is for current owners. It's hard because he'll lose a lot of value, but this time of year, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. The more concern to be is if he's your backup 5'8", and then your starting 5'8" goes down, and you've got Laurie who's dropped to 500k, and he's playing 10 minutes off the bench. Interesting one. He's a fascinating case.
Yeah, he is. I think I look at him in rose-coloured glasses because I've also got Max Plath as a potential trade and slide down to 5'8" at some point if I do, if I were to go that way.
Yeah.
So yeah. Other 2 or 3 other guys I like and teams I like for their run. Clint Gutherson. Now, you guys wouldn't believe this, but he is the 3rd highest averaging fullback in the last 6 weeks with an 86. Clint Gutherson from the Parramatta Eagles. And it shouldn't shock any of us because without Mitchell Moses last year, he averaged 95. You take out either one of Brown or Moses and his average goes through the roof. They finished their season after a tough game this week against the Roosters at the Broncos, who look like they'll be without Reece Walsh. They've got the Dargans and then into the Tigers in round 27. So sneaky little Gutho superpod. I reckon I've owned him every year but this year. I also like Fletcher Sharp and Dane Gagai. Sharp's obviously going to be difficult to own with fullback, but even for draft players, like a fantastic guy to run as your AE. Dane Gagai, just keeps doing it week in, week out. And the final guy, the Roosters, Joseph Suoli'i or Junior Ponga. If either of these guys, something were to happen to Dom Young and either of them were to move to right wing, if Sam Walker were to go down and the kicking go to Suoli'i, could be amazing for his scoring. I think last year in the 4 head-to-head finals, his average went from 55 up to 90 as well when he went to the wing with goal kicking. So not a short list, but they're my nominations for the potential 2024 Tolutau Koulas.
Yeah, well, Maxi's just racked up, written off 3/4 of the options in Supercoach. So
he did leave some for Desmond.
Yeah, mate, there are some very fascinating ones there, but a lot of thoughts because you went through a lot. Firstly, if Suoli'i ended up on the right wing, that would be unbelievable.
It'd be a must.
Yeah, a few very interesting options. Greg Margie. How Dane Gagai with all the attack down the right on the weekend only got 60-odd blows my mind, and he had a really good try assist in that as well. Jesse Ramian, I like that play on the right edge of the Sharks with a good draw. Dezzy, did any stand out to you, catch your eye?
Well, when you sent this question, I sort of looked at it like, who can score 188? Not many people in Supercoach can score that.
I did similar.
Yeah, it's a score that you're probably never going to hit in your lifetime if you're a player in the NRL, unless you're Cleary or Turbo, Pappenhausen, Ponga. That's about it.
We could all do it this weekend.
Yeah. 125, 130, more realistic. And my number one option is a guy who got 130 this week. In fact, it's Herbie Farnworth. I think he's looking phenomenal. He's taken pretty much all the runs. Azarko's work rate's been down. He's been injured. Farnworth has taken hell of a lot of carries. I think they play Bulldogs, Melbourne, Broncos,
the Knights,
Those
last 2 are juicy.
It's a moderate draw. I don't think Farnworth will, he won't probably light it up against Bulldogs or Melbourne, but he can get you those 70s still, and then he can hit those big 130 sort of scores against those last 2 opponents. So I think Farnworth is number 1. Number 2, it's also another centre wing with a big ceiling from a good team. Probably the best centre wing over the last 5 years, realistically. It's Brian To'o. He's coming into his own. He's scoring tries. Penrith are trying to make a statement as the competition comes to a close. He can score 150s, 160s, 170s, I think his top scorer is. So we know he's got it in him. But yeah, those are the 2 guys that if I had to choose, they would be straight into my team if I had trades and money.
Yeah, well, Herbie has been a big benefactor of, and it's probably been to the detriment of the right edge and Jermaine Asako, but they're just playing all their footy down the left. Like, it's an absolute killer for Asako owners out there, but all the attack is going down Isaiah Katoa's left edge, and Herbie's been incredible off the back of it. And your second one is Brian To'o. I think he'll get a rest at some point in the run home. I'm really hoping that he rests next week, and then you can pick him up for those final 2 games of the year, because I don't really want to buy him ahead of a Storm matchup. Like, it's pretty bloody tough. and then have him for a week, which with the soft matchup, then sit round 26 or 7. It makes it a little bit tough. So 2 massive options there, though. I have found, and my first 2, not necessarily minuscule ownership down. I haven't as much gone down that super pod route that Maxi has, but boys, you certainly touched on a Maxi, but I just think the Roosters, they've had their bye, they've had their freshen up, so they shouldn't rest players barring any niggles. Run home, Eels, Titans, Raiders and Rabbitohs. That's 4 of the 6 worst defensive teams in the NRL, in the top 6. Sammy Walker, one I know that's very much caught your eye this week, Maxi, he could explode on that run home. Like I expect the Roosters to be putting on some 40s and potentially even some 50s on this stretch. And then, look, Dom Young's at about 60% ownership, but with Joey Manu back inside him, and you've got some stats around them shortly, Maxi, but honestly, I think you can nearly take your pick of about 8 different blokes in the Roosters outfit that could go big. It's just finding them. If you really want to go down the super pod route, Daniel Tupu on the other edge. He's got a really good 5 or 6 game average. I prefer the right edge, and I love Joey Manu, but I think the Roosters are going to explode the way that Manly did the last couple of weeks. I think they could do it 4 weeks on the trot. Zach Lomax, boys, Titans, Sharks, Eels and Raiders. He's played against, I think, 3 of the 4 best defensive teams in the competition the last couple of weeks for a 70-point average. What he could do against these softer sides could be in for a massive finish. I don't know if the Dragons have the attack in him for the big ones, but if they do pull out some 30, 40-point games, he could have the 150s in him, like Zach Lomax. Very tempting. Dylan Edwards at 891k. He's one...
Forgotten man.
Yeah, the forgotten man. So I haven't checked his ownership, but having been out for ages, I'd assume it'd be 0%, being at fullback. After this week, so he's got a 157 break even, so he should be early 800k after this week. Raiders, Rabbitohs, Titans. Probably goal kicks in the game if Nathan Cleary gets a rest. Dylan Edwards, I couldn't trade any of the big dog fullbacks to him at this point because it seems sideways. But if any of the fullbacks go down, Maxi, Dylan Edwards could be a massive play.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of one of those things where we talk about the segment, we'll come up about how guys go with other guys. Edwards without Cleary, I think his average was close to 100. So he's a fantastic shout.
My lucky last one, this one's a controversial one because he's the number 3 most traded out player in Supercoach, which blew my mind this week. Greg Marju. He's 529k with a 53 point per game average. Pretty underwhelming season, but look, Ponga out for a long stretch of that. He was injured as well, Greg Marju, for a while, not getting the attacking stats. He comes up for the Knights. You mentioned the right edge before. The left edge, which forever and a day has been the Knights' strong attacking edge with Kalen Ponga at the helm, because he does his best work there. I mentioned every week. Sharks, Rabbitohs, Titans, Dolphins. The only concern with it is that watching that game last week against the Tigers, I don't know if it was something they identified with the Tigers' edge defence, but they just went down the right to Fletcher Sharp the whole game. They did not want to go down the left, but if that's not a permanent thing, which I'd find very weird, Greg Marju on the left, Dezzy, I think he finishes with a bang. Yeah,
it never ceases to amaze me when I see stuff like Greg Marju being one of the most traded out. He's tried and true. He's a good Supercoach player. It's confirmed by now. We've seen enough sample size. He busts tackles. He has a high work rate. And with a draw like Sharks, Rabbits, Titans, Dolphins, you'd think he's going to score at least 3 to 4 tries in there.
Yeah, I think the final 2 are against, at McDonald Jones in Newcastle. Yep. I think people have seen last week's score and they're seeing like a Joey Manu or something and I'll make that jump. I think Greg Marju could finish big. Now, boys, topic 2 for the show. How dudes go with other dudes. Brought to you by Maximus Bryden. Maximus, hit us.
Good. Well, man, I've got to take a bit of inspiration from this from so many of the conversations in the WhatsApp chat. A big thing I remember talking to Spy about what was working for us this year. I think, Matty, it was before the last podcast, we were talking about the ability to adapt. And so much of what has been, I think, seeing Reece win and his success this year has been from picking up on trends when you're seeing how dudes go with other dudes or how dudes go when their role changes. So I wanted to look into a few things just to see how they're going. So I'll start with Max Plath. Now, Psychoplath, what amazing season for him so far. Started the season with a 5/8 position in Supercoach, which was awesome, and then got the second row added. Averaging 59.3 at lock, and that's all his games, including a couple of concussion games. In his last games at hooker, he's averaging 76.6. which is amazing. Just getting better every single week as well. That's why I'm finding it really, really hard to sit him this week over a guy like Eli Katoa or even Bryden Nickera, just given that, particularly coming up against the Bulldogs. So Plath at hooker, better, hopefully gets a duel next year. Looks an amazing prospect.
Well, Plathy, when I first saw him in the most traded-in plays this week, I just thought, like he's had scores inflated by attacking stats in recent weeks. And I've actually done a deep dive around Plath's stats this season, almost with more of an eye to 2025, certainly for my team. And I just went, wow, like I couldn't push back on it the way he's been going. And for you to be potentially sitting him this week, that says a bit about your squad.
Yeah, no, it's really hurt my head
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. The next guy on the list is Matt Burton, and I know a lot of people. Matt Burton was really popular by probably 2-3 weeks ago post Origin, and the question is how has he gone since Sexton came into the team? Has there been any impact? Because he scored well without necessarily having this huge ceiling game. So having a look at the games with Sexton, his average with Toby Sexton is 89 and without is 62. Now the outlier in that is that Matt Burton's 147 game where he scored 3 tries early on. That was Toby Sexton's first game where Drew Hutchinson was out. So if you take that out, those scores are basically the same. So in effect, Burton's about a 65 averaging player with or without Toby Sexton. So just doesn't seem to really have that ceiling who's making other coaches and non-owners hurt. So yeah. The next one is, this was looking at the Roosters. My first question was, how does Dom Young, a guy dear to our hearts, Timmy, and maybe not Dez's, go with Joey Manu and without? So with Manu, who's averaging 84, and when you take Joey Manu out, it goes down to 75. It's still fantastic, but those extra 9 points are going to be amazing for coaches on this run home. That also did make me ask a question, because I know that you owned Joey Manu earlier in the season, and you did sort of claim that you may have broken him. Dezzy, I know you've got Manu as well, and a lot of people said that he started really well, and then he did sort of hit a bit of a wall. The thing that I was thinking about with the Roosters was more so about Connor Watson and their forward structures and who was playing 2RF for the team. Started out the year, we had guys like Wong in there, we had Nat Butcher. They finally settled on putting Victor Radley in there at about round 12. And you can actually see a significant impact on Joey Manu's scores when Radley is playing 2RF. This might not be good news for you as an owner, Des, and Timmy may make you question the buy, but with Radley at lock, so out of his way essentially, Joey Manu's averaging 83 and only has 1 score under 60. And since Radley moved into right 2RF, his average drops to 54.6. So it's a 30-point drop, and only 33% of his scores are over 60. So that's a pretty significant impact when you think about it. I don't know how much Radley out there has just changed the shape of that right edge, but it's had a significant impact on Joey Manu.
It's very interesting numbers. I'm just trying to work out any actual footy correlation between it, because like Victor Radley, a really good ball playing lock, as is Connor Watson. Like they're somewhat like for like, them two at 13. And Radley also doesn't get a lot of ball. I don't feel like, and again, this is off the top of the melon, but I don't feel like Radley takes a lot of ball off the edge. He just runs a hard line like a Nat Butcher would when he was on the edge, or a Josh Wong, whoever it might be. So need to have more of a think about it, but I'm hoping that it's a random stat-based thing, but it's not based on anything footy attribute-wise. Maybe it is. What do you think, Dezzy?
I'm not sure. Is the average taking into consideration his games at fullback?
Yeah, but his games at fullback weren't big 180s. There was a 110 when he played half the game there, and then there was 100 when he based 1 million points there. But even then, like the sample size was pretty decent, because it was only round 12 when Radley went to second row. So there was 10 games before that where he was playing in the centres without it. So it's just an interesting one to look at. I'd love for you to have a think about it more this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're listening in and you've got a bit of reasoning to it, feel free to just mention it in the YouTube comments or on the social post, whatever it might be. But yeah, off the top of the melon, I don't know why, but it does scare me a little bit.
Don't be scared. Manu's, I know, we've seen him so many seasons. He averages 70, 75. I think that's all you can expect from him on the run home, to be honest.
And look, the Eels made Isaac Targo look like a first grader on the weekend, and we all know how bad he's been. So he'll have a good game.
Whack. What else you got there, mate?
Next one is Jerome Hughes with Cameron Munster. Now, this
big
is a really big one, because a lot of people have probably noticed that Hughes is not getting as much ball since Big Money came back into the team, and the stats show it. So with Cameron Munster in the team, his average is 62.4, and without, it's 87.5. So you're talking 15 points extra. when he's playing with Wishart as his 5'8", which is absolutely huge. I think Jerome Hughes is on the chopping block for a few coaches this week, potentially coming into the Penrith matchup and with the rumoured resting in round 25. And the stats show that that's probably not a bad call.
Well, you saw these numbers, and when Munster was out and you saw Hughes racking up big scores, you suspected that he really did have a negative impact on him, Munster, on Jerome Hughes. But since Munster's come back, it's really just confirmed it, hasn't it? So let's skip ahead a little bit to one of your trade plans, mate. But you're looking at Jerome Hughes to Sam Walker.
I am.
Talk us through this.
This is a trade I had penciled in mostly for head-to-head reasons because I didn't want Hughes for the Penrith matchup forever. Looking at the stats has really confirmed it. But I really think that a guy I don't want to come up against and a guy that I'm really excited to own from a head-to-head capacity, just because he does have that 180 ceiling, is Sam Walker. Goal kicking, high-scoring team, hot draw, hot form, 2 tons in a row. I'm really excited to get on the train.
Isn't it mad to think at this stage of the season you can be trading a bloke who's potentially bound for a Dally M medal this season, averaging 74 points for the year, and you can be getting rid of him. But you add in the fact that there's rumours that the Storm are going to rest players in round 26 as well. So he goes Penrith, plays a game, potentially rest, round 27, particularly for head-to-head players, as you said. Dezzy, how do you feel about that Jerome Hughes trade?
Look, when you first said it, I was like, no, I think it's a bit sideways. When you've got 4 trades left, you can't really be doing Hughes to Walker. But after hearing the explanation, I'm sold. I'm sold in it. If he only plays, realistically, Penrith, that's half a score, and then 2 other games after that, it's just, Sam Walker could get that score from those 2.5 games in 1 game if he goes big, which he can. We've seen him do it. So, you know what? I'm giving it the green tick now.
Thanks, Dezzy. I'll sleep better tonight.
Desmond's thumbs up. Maxi, what do you got?
I've got 3 more. So one is just Bryden To'o. So we saw 3 weeks ago that he and Sunia Taruva switched edges. I think it was a decision made basically because of how bad Tungo and Taruva were defending together.
Apologies for that. I was saying last week that it was the first week it had happened. It was actually the week prior.
Yeah, I think it was about round 20.
Got called out about 4,000 times for it. Thank you.
Oh, that's right, man. That's what we're here for. Look, all I wanted to call out was To'o to end 2023. You owned him. I owned him then. I'm not sure if you did last year, but he finished the season with an absolute bang at right wing, 86.5 average. Scored about 8 tries in 6 games. So him on the right edge, that combination of Cleary, Tungo, and To'o, red hot. If I did have the money, I'd be looking that way, and I back your call that he could be one of the coolers to end this year. The next one is just the Cronulla defence. Now, they've had a weird year, I think, by all reports. They were really hot to start the year. They had some big wins. They sort of stumbled. But the one thing that's been really true of them in the last couple of weeks while they've fumbled around without Nico Hines has just been how good their defence is. And in the last 6 weeks alone, they're actually the #1 ranked Supercoach defence, and by quite some margin. So they're only conceding about 622 points per game. For context, any team whose average concedes about 750, so that's 130 less points per game. And the worst teams at the moment are averaging over 850 points. The Tigers are averaging almost 900 points a game. So the Cronulla defence is really good. It's why Jaden Campbell and the Titans were shut out on the weekend. It's why I think Ponga might have a tougher game than he thinks this weekend, and why I'm sitting Greg the Leg, despite how much I love him. But Cronulla's defence has been absolutely amazing.
What did you say that sample size was, mate? How many games?
Last 6 rounds for Cronulla.
6 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, very soft draw.
Very soft draw, yeah.
Titans, Rabbitohs, Cowboys, Tigers, Titans, like soft.
Double Titans. Yeah.
Double Titans.
But Titans' attack is okay. Like, there's no, they're not as bad as they used to be.
Yeah, they didn't hop off the bus on the weekend. There you go.
Yep. And the final one is just Pat Carrigan now. I love Pat. I was actually looking him a potential trading option this week. I've talked myself out of it, but I just wanted to have a quick look into his 80-minute games because that's what we expect him now without Payne Haas there. 67 average in 80-minute games and 63 in non-average games. So he's had 2 really good weeks in a row, and I do think he's a decent target at under 600k for people who need a 2RF from next week with a soft draw, but no huge change in his stats. So that's Max's How Guys Go With Other Guys stats deep dive. Don't know if we get renewed for a second season, but anyway, I hope the listeners enjoy that.
That was some good content.
That was refreshing.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I think the people are going to be big fans of that one. Bit of guy on guy. All right, guys. That miserable time of year has come around once again, not missing out on your head-to-head finals for a third straight season and being the laughing stock of your Supercoach comp. But tax time. We have a special call out to any of our self-employed SC Playbook faithful who may have been hit with a tax bill this year. If this is sounding familiar and you're a little unsure about how to attack it, there are plenty of options out there to keep more money in your pocket, especially if you currently have a place of your own. Give Paddy and the team at Mortgage Choice SCW a call and they can let you know how to most effectively consolidate any tax debt, no matter how great or small. Usually that'd sting you $129, but if you mention SC Playbook sent you along, it's completely free of charge. An absolute bargain, even better than a bargain because it's free. Flick the team a message on Instagram at mortgagechoice_SCW or call them on 02 9521 1611. Doesn't matter where you are based in Australia. Boys, hot topics for this show. And we're going to start with, it was going to be a standalone topic, but it's going to lead hot topics. Nothing really changes, so whatever. Fullbacks. Kalen Ponga is the third most traded in player this week. Tom Trebojevic is the fourth most traded in. James Tedesco is the 14th most traded in. Scott Drinkwater is the number 1 most traded out. Ryan Pappenhausen is the number 6 most traded out. Fullback roulette, in the words of the SC Spy, is in full swing. And it really does have the potential to just define the back end of the season. And if you're someone who has hoarded a few trades, you're in a position to play a bit of it. You mentioned, Maxie, that Sharks matchup for Ponga is a tricky one. Straight off the bat, Dezzy, let's say you're sitting there and you don't have enough trades to play any fullback roulette and change any round, which is going to be most people, I think. I think most people are going to have, certainly by the end of this week, once Pappy and Drinky are gone, will have 2 of those 3 fullbacks. Who are the 2 that you want for the final month?
They're the 2 I've got, Turbo and Teddy. They're the 2. They're top averaging, I believe, minus
Edwards.
Edwards, yeah. I think they've just been the guns over the last sort of 5 to 10 years of Supercoach. KP also very good. Hard to pass him up, really. If only we could go back in time to when he was 5'8", available at 5'8".
Oh, so good.
Yeah, those are the glory days of Supercoach. But I think Turbo is probably the number 1 now. You can toss up between Teddy and Ponga for number 2. Yeah, it's really going to come down to whether the Roosters put their foot on the gas for the run home or not. I mean, if they don't, if they kind of ease up and cruise into the finals, then Teddy might string a bunch of 70s and 80s along, and KP and Turbo might just go 120, 130 every week like we saw last week. But I'm kind of under the impression that they'll all kind of score within maybe 50 points of each other over 4 weeks. I can see maybe one scoring 400 and then the other 2 scoring 350. There's not going to be that much of a discrepancy in the scoring unless Turbo does go like 150, 160 in one of those games, which he might. That's why I have him at the top. But the other 2, maybe not.
The damage could really be done if, let's say, people use their last 2 trades this week. Particularly, you might be someone ranked well in overall and playing head-to-heads, or you might use 2 trades to win a must-win head-to-head this week, and then one of them goes down injured next week, and you can't flip to one of the others. Maxie, first question, because we'll go to a head-to-head question secondly, but from an overall perspective, the same question to Dezzy. Which 2 of the 3 do you want to be owning, and who do you own?
I own Teddy and Turbo. I turned Pappy into Turbo last week. I just couldn't trust Pappy with his break-even and his performance from the week before. I think Teddy's the clear number 1. I think his scores versus bottom 8 teams, like his average is about 111. That's per the WhatsApp chat. And I think that between Turbo and Ponga, I agree, Dezzy. I think you put it well. It's going to be pretty close once the 4 games are all said and done. I think if I had no trades right now, you'd probably just go Ponga, because I think that between Ponga and Turbo, they're going to score about the same, and there's about a 200k difference in price. But on pure scoring alone, maybe Turbo, but just. So that's where I think the roulette comes into play.
It's so fascinating because they all have such easy draws. Like, off the top of my head, I think the only tough game of all 3 clubs is probably Ponga and the Sharks this weekend. Even then, the Sharks have leaky defensive games in them. We know that.
Yeah.
It's a day game on Sunday, I believe, at Shark Park. See, I have, and this terrifies me because I'm a non-Turbo, and I've got Ponga and Teddy. When Turbo had a few big weeks and I saw Ponga coming back, I just sort of made, like with my rank, I went, stuff it. Let's have a bit of fun. I think Turbo's number one, the form he's in. And like, I think I said at the start of the year, I started with him and I said, made on a big song and dance about why that 141 average wasn't necessarily one of the great anomalies. And I stick by it. If he plays a full season fit in a firing Manly side, maybe not 140, but he can have a big average. I think he's number one ahead of James Tedesco, who could finish enormous with this run. I think the difference is for me that we know the Roosters are going to be unbelievable. We know Manly are firing in attack and playing good footy. The Knights should win a few of these games convincingly on the run home, but they might not. They haven't been that good this season, realistically. If they fall off and have a few tighter games or they don't click in attack, Ponga is the most vulnerable of the three. My next question to you, Maxie, head-to-head players this week with a few trades up the sleeve. Do you play a bit of roulette and do you move Ponga to Turbo or Teddy?
Such a tough question because I think that on paper it's a yes. I think you could sell Ponga to Turbo just so you can afford it, because I think that Turbo's probably one of the best three captain options this week, if not every other week, whereas Ponga, I wouldn't be as confident in the Sharks matchup. But again, the two things that we probably haven't seen proven are can Newcastle consistently score really well, and how do the Sharks go against maybe a better team than who they've played in the last 6 weeks. So on paper, I think yes, but it's a really tough call.
Yeah. Tough one. As I said, I think that no one will argue the Drinky and Pappy trade-outs too much, but look, as I said, in theory, like they could be within 15 points of each other over the next month, but if one of them does go quiet and has a few 50s in there and the other one punches out 150, that could be a big deciding factor, especially when you add captaincies into that.
100%. And I think that's where I'm actually, my plan at the moment, trades and injuries pending. I say injuries pending, like, again, with 22, 23 good players, like, it doesn't really matter if I've got a guy on the bench who's not playing anymore. I've got Turbo at the moment. I basically want to skip her in for these next two games against the Warriors. The Tigers next week is the big one. Yeah. That's going to be a Thursday night, Leichhardt Oval. I'm going to be on the hill. Lid's going to be off. The Tigers jersey's going to be swinging around the head while Turbo's my skipper. It's going to be amazing. But having said that, he's got the Bulldogs in round 26, the head-to-head grand final, which is going to be really tough. So I think sell that week to Ponga for his two final matchups against the Titans and the Dolphins.
In Newcastle.
Yeah, both of them at home. Or even like to get really weird, that's when you can even have a sneaky look at Clint Gutherson versus the Dragons and the Tigers as well.
Is Gutho love? Are you taking the piss? Are you serious?
Has he ever let you down? Has he ever let you down in Supercoach?
No, he hasn't, because I've never owned him because there's better fullbacks than him.
And that's maybe why you're ranked. I do think Gutho's an interesting pod, and he does. I think you have to look at him from a roulette perspective and a pod perspective as well. But I could legitimately see myself, if there's no other fires, selling Turbo in 2 weeks when they come up against the Bulldogs. And look, you know what Manly are like. Maybe they can to make the Dogs not look like an incredible defensive outfit. But again, man, I've got to look at the stats and the numbers and be guided by that.
They've served you pretty well this year, mate.
Pretty well.
So yes, fascinating one for the run home with those boys. And I mentioned before, but if you can keep a trade up your sleeve for even the last 2 weeks where there's some of them very easy games, you might have a Turbo Teddy combination. Pong has those two dream matchups for the last 2 weeks where he could go 150. If one of your key fullbacks goes down injured, the ability to make that move to a bloke that you're going to captain both weeks, that could be your Koula of last year.
100%.
Angus Crichton is the most traded in player this week, boys. 699k, 76 point per game average, 103 break even. Is he a must-have, Dezzy?
How many times are you going to ask me about Angus Crichton this year?
I feel like, well, what I do is I'm like, I try not to.
He's a must-have to
I
me.
try not
He
to bring
is.
them up like the ones you speak at too often each and every week, but the Crichton questions seemingly have aligned with you every week you've come on.
Number one most traded in, I guess it's fair enough. But yes, he for the 10th time, he is a must-have, and he will be going forward in seasons to come in Supercoach. You will not get away with not owning Angus Crichton for years to come.
At the risk of having asked Maxie that same question in recent weeks, I also think Angus Crichton is a must-have for your run home. We've spoken a little bit about Zach Lomax. We've spoken... we'll chat about him anyway. The bloke that's about to... I mentioned at the start of the show that there's been a lot of nails in the coffin of the Stones this season. There's one nail left, and that nail belongs to Joey Manu and his hamstring that's probably going to go this weekend when I trade him in. I apologise to those who held Joey Manu so far through his injury, but to those of you that bring him in this week, I do not make any apologies because I'm telling you, history suggests time and time again, I will break him.
Are you not worried about the curse?
Well, I am, but you can't break a curse by shying away from it, can you?
He's coming off a 29, though. It can't get any worse than a 29, can it?
I didn't have him, though.
Timmy,
So maybe the curse is already broken.
would you like to hear from the man himself?
Oh, my God. What is this?
What's up, Timmy? It's Joey here. I just want to talk to you about your Supercoach that you got going on. So from what I've heard, every time the Kuma Stallions buys me, I get injured. Done my hemi last year, and obviously I'm out now for a few weeks of my hand. And then when you sell me, I scored a double against the Dragons. So, look, I just want to say all the best with the fantasy, but when I'm back on the field, stay away from me, man. Let me get out there, play some footy, and hopefully I can bag a few tries and finish the season strong. Wishing you all the best in fantasy, though, bro, and hopefully all goes well. Thanks, man.
God.
Well,
Who conjured up that?
Credit has to go to Homer, one of the OG SC Playbook greats,
Yeah.
for pulling that together. But, mate, if Joey can't keep himself safe with a personalised message for you, then please, for the other coaches, mate, have a think about them. Think of the children.
Now it becomes personal now, and I actually feel bad about breaking him. I'd never met Joey Manu, so it was all good and well. Oh, Homer, that's one of your best. All right, now I'm rattled. New trade plans. I can't hurt Joey Manu. Boys, where are we up to? We've spoken about Greg Marju. Number 4, Jaden Campbell. 694k, 72 point per game average, 5-round average of 67. Dezzy, it's a tough one. It's probably not a tough one because people are mass selling him.
Fourth most traded out.
Fourth most traded out. I said last week that I think he had 3 tons in 5 games or something. I couldn't justify the trade out. I don't have him, but I didn't see he was better than him.
Yeah.
I did not anticipate the Titans coming out and getting beaten 44-0 by the Sharks. What do you think?
I still think he's probably a hold. I assume most people are buying Max Plath by the looks of it in that 5'8" spot. I know who I'd rather for a month of footy in my Supercoach team, and it's definitely still Jaden Campbell. Plath has been good. He's knocking out, 80s consistently, but I think Campbell, you want to get those big tons. You want to jag maybe one of them. If you can jag another big 130, 120, 130, and he can do it. It's not like he had that try disallowed against Broncos the week before. That would have been another 80. And he's scoring 40, which we know is the floor of like a good Supercoach half, without doing anything. So when he does something, it's going to go to 70. If he does 2 things, it's going to 100. It's not that hard for Jaden Campbell to get there. And they've got Dragons, Roosters, Newcastle, Penrith, moderate draw. He can probably ton up in one of those games, I would say. Not against the Roosters or Penrith, but definitely against the Knights or the Dragons, he can jag it a ton.
Max?
Mate, I think, Dezzy, you've said it perfectly again, mate. I'll play him this week against the Dragons. I'll sit him against the Roosters. I'll play him against the Knights. And it depends on who Panthers turn up with in round 27, whether or not I sit or start. But I've got Dill Brown, so he's a perfect foil for all of those matchups. So play him 2 out of 4. Easy hold.
Agree, boys. I think he's a hold as well. And the last one on the sell list, Casey McLean at number 8. Came back to the pack on the weekend with 21 points. 380k, 49 point per game average, 26 break even. I mean, look, it's all circumstantial, isn't it, Maxie? If you're selling him to a gun like a Joey Manu or whoever it might be, and you can do it in one hit, so be it. But at the same time, mate, we've already mentioned the Panthers run home, and after this week, where I wouldn't look to play him, definitely not, he becomes such a good play the following 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, he's a perfect 7th CTW, even a 6th. Again, sit this week, but very playable every other week. I can only think that maybe people are nothing to get cash.
For something else.
But no, I think he's a great hold.
And he's at that awkward price where
you
get a bit of cash from, but it's not that much.
Or it's going to cost you a lot of money to turn him into someone who you
I think
really want.
Casey McLean, put it this way, regardless of injuries or resting, I'm going to find it very hard to not play him after this Melbourne week for the last 3 weeks. Boys, trades and skippers. Dezzy, hit us.
No trades. I think I'm just going to hold them for, maybe a play like Turbo to Ponga in the last 2 weeks. I hadn't even thought of that as a play, but it sounds amazing. Holding trades. Skippers. I made the mistake of captaining Cleary and not going the VC on him into the C Turbo last week. I don't know. I'm just struggling to put the C on Turbo with Manly going well. It's just a thing now, but I think I'm going to have to slap it on him this week with the VC on probably Cleary.
Maxie?
Yeah, I think that I'm just having a look at my team now. So trades, first and foremost, I want to turn Jerome Hughes into Sam Walker. I can't do that in one trade, unfortunately, so I do need to generate a bit of cash, which sucks. I had looked at potentially selling Eli Katoa to someone to generate about 40 grand. So the best option I liked the look of was Pat Carrigan. But I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably just going to nuff Brendan Hands and just run Connor Watson and hooker. Also gives me a lot more cash in the bank after the trade, 126K for any potential other upgrades for the rest of the season. Takes me down to my last 2 trades after that. Skipper VC at the moment is probably going to be Cleary into Turbo, I'd imagine.
Yep.
Would love to work on like a Sammy Walker or Teddy C and like a Turbo VC, but I've got so many players, like sit starts are so tough this week.
Yep.
So I'll probably just do Cleary into Turbo.
2 trades left after that?
2 trades left after that. No trades next week. 1 trade in 26.
Ooh. Well, I'm in the same boat. Well, after this week, we're all going to have 2 left. There you go.
How good.
For myself, no, Matty the Waterboy.
I currently have 2 trades left, so I'm not making any trades. And I'll vice captain Cleary and I'll captain Teddy.
Weren't tempted to bring in Lockie Galvin for his masterclass against the Rabbitohs that you'll be at?
No, I don't want him to. I don't want to have another 0 this week.
I have gone with. Oh, this feels. God, these trades feel good. Sean Lane and Darlin Witteni-Lesniak out. Shout out to Sean Lane, who I've, for some stupid reason, held all season. He's come up against the 3 best defensive teams in the competition the last 3 weeks and averaged about 90 points where I didn't play him for any of them. Thank you, Sean Lane. That is our relationship this season. However, he has at least got to about 550k and produced some value for me for the trade. Sean Lane out, Darlin Witteni-Lesniak out, Angus Crichton in, Joey Manu in. Isn't that sweet?
How are you feeling? Like, are you set on that, having seen Joey's personal message?
Well, I had about a 5-week trade plan it's all gone to plan. Even shout out to Daniela Paseka. The only time the plan strayed was when Payne Haas got injured, so that had to be my cash gen. Daniela Paseka 72 last week, who I didn't play, of course. But yeah, it's all worked out. So I'm going to need to watch that again and just get a vibe for Joey and see how we go. But I think Manu goes huge on the way home.
Yep.
I do. I really do. So I want it. That leaves me 2 trades left. It also leaves me 175k in the bank. So I've got a bit of wiggle room for those final 2 trades. VC, Daly Cherry Evans, C, James Tedesco. Boys, a few questions from the listeners and then we'll wrap it up. First one from, I think we may have touched on a few of these already. First one from Ryan Aldis. Dezzy. He's been, now that I'm knocked out of my head-to-head final, what do I do with my life?
That's a good question. Shit, I spend too much time on the Supercoach app as well. So, I don't know, go play golf, go surfing. These are things that I do, but, what else do you do?
Actually, is there life without it?
I don't believe so, but if he wants to consume some quality Supercoach content not related to his head-to-head final, I'll probably be getting down to the SC Playbook meetup in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh yeah, get down to that one. We'll have a few beers, a few waters, whatever your choice of beverage is. But yeah, if Supercoach is done, you just, I don't know, watch footy without it. Weird. Next question from Teabag Dezzy. How big does one's balls need to be to captain Lachlan Galvin this week?
The Galvinator C, yeah. You got to have pretty big balls. You got to have big balls to do it though. He's got 40s in him, but we haven't seen that huge 140 from Galvin. I know it's coming though. It'll come next year.
I tell you what, boys.
We've seen a few times.
Lockie Galvin, 18 at the start of this season. He's recently turned 19. in the team on track for a third consecutive wooden spoon, and he's averaging 63 points, and he's like getting better as the season goes on. He's remarkable. Actually, in a tough year, just as good a shining light as one could have.
Yeah, that's it. He's basically like the only reason I'm still smiling when I talk about the Tigers these days. Next year will be good, him and Luai. That'll be really, really good. So, yeah, T-Bag, he sounds like a bigger Tigers fan than me. So, mate, why not? I think Lockie could be in for a big finish to the season as well.
One from Wayne Charles, two-parter. We'll go with part 2 of it. But he asked, do I use my boost in round 26 or 27, basically? There can't be that. It's interesting because we don't really touch on boost this point of the season because there's not many with them out there. But, Maxi, if you did have a boost up the sleeve, is there an ideal time to use it? Or how do you feel?
I don't think so. I think it's like when you need it.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty fun to own in a head-to-head capacity. I mean, I got lost to a guy who boosted last week, which was pretty awesome for me. That's all right. That's why he finished top 4, get a second chance.
Yeah.
So look, I think it's whenever you need it. If it's going to prevent you from losing a match, then use it. If it's going to get you a big win, then use it. But you're in a really, really good position holding it this deep.
One from Stephen Muncho. Who would you lads choose as your last reserve, Dezzy? Nickera, Cody Walker, Galvin, or McLean?
I would say it's out of Galvin and Nickera. I'll probably lean towards Nickera still. He's really highly owned in the top ranks. If you sit him and he gets 96 or whatever he did last week, you're losing a bit of ground on people. And he seems to keep scoring 90s. He scored it, 5 or 6 times over the last 8 weeks. So he's in form. Don't know why you'd choose against him.
Yeah, Nickera for me as well. Maxi, one from Connor McKeon. Am I an idiot for wanting to play Jai Gray over Jerome Hughes? Jai Gray against the Tigers, Hughes against the Panthers. I don't think he is.
No, I don't think he is at all. I thought that Jai Gray maybe hurt his ribs or something on the weekend. So
right.
I think I heard that in Physio's podcast. But no, I'd be playing Gray over Hughes 100% against the Tigers for sure.
One from Anonymous. Question for Timothy Williams. What's your worst ever ranking to finish a season since you've been playing overall properly? Is this it? This is currently my worst rank by about 9,500 spots. So unless I can really bring back a few spots in the last 4 weeks, by which I mean 9,500, yeah, it's just one of those years.
You're just got to find that cooler, mate.
Yeah, who's the cooler? Boys, Jimmy Mann, positional plays this week. First one, Grant versus Appy, Dezzy.
Ooh, it's a tough one. I've wanted to get in Grant for the last sort of month or so as an Appy owner, but I can't bring myself to sell Appy, so I'm going to have to lean towards Appy. I think it's an okay matchup as well for the Tigers. He could jag an attacking stat or two. Grant probably going to struggle, though he might. You never know. Campbell versus Munster. I think you got to give Campbell another trot. Then again, it seems it's stupid to buy Munster or have bought Munster in the last 5 weeks and then sit him. So
this is a very sittable matchup for him, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but Munster turns up when the
he does.
The big games play. We haven't really seen it this year. I think he's had 1 ton. But yeah, but Campbell's matchup's also fantastic against the Dragons. Like they've just lost Moses Sully, potentially Flanagan as well. And they'd be rocked by last week's result against the Dogs. So I think the Titans are in for a good game. I do like his matchup. So it's a tough one. I'd probably go Appy and Campbell.
Yeah, I'd go Appy. I don't think Campbell versus Munster's a tough one. Campbell versus the Dragons, Munster versus the Panthers. I'm playing Campbell every day of the week there, boys. Lads, let's wrap that up for round 24 of the SC Playbook podcast. What do you got, Maxie? You look eager to say something.
No, man, just happy, just smiling. We've been planning that particular video for, I want to say, like 6 or 7 weeks.
So good.
It's been in the can for a while. We were just waiting for a lot of things to fall our way, and they finally did in round 24. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's one from yourself and Homer, mate. Love it.
Mate, it's all Homer. Shout out Homer.
Yeah, he's good at what he does. And Dezzy, thank you, mate.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Have a ripping week.